Welcome to Project First Line. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll focus on the importance of hand hygiene in healthcare. Please keep your videos on to the extent possible and keep your microphone muted when you are not contributing to the discussion. It's great to see you all here today. Today, we'll discuss the importance of having clean hands and why germs can be spread by hands, and practice supporting good hand hygiene practices at work. We'll also have an opportunity to reflect before we wrap up for the day. Here is what we expect we will learn today. By the end of today's training, you'll be able to describe why it's so important for those of us in healthcare to have clean hands. You'll also be able to describe why hands are our main way the germs can spread in the environment. Before we get started, let's review a definition of hand hygiene. Go ahead and read the definition to yourself. We talk about hand hygiene. The simpler way to say it is just cleaning your hands and not washing your hands. Does anyone have an idea why? Right, it's because hand hygiene includes washing your hands with soap and water and using alcohol-based hand sanitizer. We all recognize and appreciate the importance of hand hygiene. We hear it all the time. Wash your hands. Even before COVID-19, hand hygiene was a big part of our daily lives in healthcare. But did you ever stop to think about how often you clean your hands, either by washing with soap and water or by using alcohol-based hand sanitizer? Spend a few minutes reflecting on your average day and try to count the number of times you clean your hands on the job. You can use the blank pages in your participant booklet if you'd like to keep a tally. When you have your estimate, use the hand raising feature to let me know you're ready. Great. It looks like everyone is ready. Let's see who has the highest count. Who cleans their hands more than 10 times a day during work? How about 20 times per workday? Wow. And if we factored in cleaning our hands before and after our work days, the number would get even higher. So you may ask, why talk about hand hygiene again? Germs are everywhere, and we can spread them without knowing it to other surfaces, things, and people. In healthcare, you are likely to come in contact with things that carry germs, like respiratory droplets, saliva, blood, and waste. And you're more likely to touch patients at risk for bad infections. In this graphic, we see a patient who is ill and coughing, with respiratory droplets traveling into the air and landing on surfaces, where the healthcare worker picks them up with her hands and unfortunately carries the germs to her eyes. The healthcare worker could also easily carry the germs to her nose or mouth while or after removing her mask. As a quick reminder, if we touch something that has germs on it with our hands and then touch our eyes, mouth, or nose without cleaning our hands first, we could get sick. If we touch something with germs on it and then touch something else without cleaning our hands first, we can spread germs that can be picked up by someone else. This is how a lot of germs spread in healthcare, not just viruses. That's why cleaning our hands is such an important part of infection control. Let's hear more about how hand hygiene can help from the CDC's Dr. Carlson.
Welcome back, everybody, to Inside Infection Control, our video series here at CDC's Project First Line. I'm Abby Carlson. I'm an infectious diseases doctor at the CDC. And as always, it's great to have you with us today. We're going to talk about hand hygiene. Hand hygiene comes up all the time. And honestly, ever since you were a little kid, right? Wash your hands before dinner, wash your hands after you go to the bathroom, wash your hands. We know the message, but today we're going to talk about hand hygiene in healthcare and why we talk about it so much and so often. And the simple answer is, when you clean your hands, you're stopping the spread of germs to your patients, to the environment, and to the things in the environment, and from your patients or the environment to you. We touch a lot of things with our hands throughout the day. We don't really realize how much, but when we use our hands, stuff gets on them. And that's in addition to the stuff that is already on them. So when we touch the next thing, whatever's on our hands can get on that thing. And whatever is on that thing is going to get on our hands. It's a big way to say that germs are everywhere, at work, in the healthcare setting, but also at home, and also in the community when you're running your errands and doing your shopping. And it's why there are so many messages for everyone to keep their hands clean. But in healthcare, hand hygiene, or cleaning your hands, is especially important. We're caring for patients who are ill and weak, and they are more vulnerable to infection. So we want to make sure we don't spread germs to them. And at work, we're more likely to come into contact with blood, body fluids, and other things that may be carrying germs constantly throughout the day. Let's take nursing as an example. Our nursing staff, they touch up to 15 different surfaces during a single patient interaction. For the average nurse, that is 912 different surfaces in a 12-hour shift. Every one of those surfaces has germs on it. So from that standpoint, it makes sense why cleaning your hands and using gloves correctly are so important. Hands are really good at spreading germs because we use them so much, yes. But it's also because parts of our hands, to be honest, are pretty welcoming to germs. They are pretty great at growing bugs. In between our fingers, it's warm and it can be damp, and germs love this environment. It's a great place to grow bacteria. Same thing under our nails. Our fingernails underneath there, they're warm, they're damp, they're dark. Another great place with dirt and skin cells and other nutrients that bacteria can live in and grow in. So, third thing, if you have a break in your skin, that's another hot zone. Both for the germs to get from the environment into you and onto you, and for germs that are on your skin to get into the environment, because it's such a wet spot, usually where you have a break in the skin. So when we're talking about germs on your hands, what are we really talking about? Well, there are viruses, including the virus that causes COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2. Some viruses can easily travel on skin and hands. Then there are a lot of bacteria, especially things like Staph aureus or C. difficile, which are bacteria that we see a lot in healthcare and worry about a lot because they cause big problems. Funguses, spores, those can be on your hands. Some funguses actually live on your skin. And as we talked about in the episode on cleaning and disinfection, many of the germs that we see in healthcare are resistant to antibiotics, meaning that the drugs that we would use to treat somebody who's sick with those bugs may not work as well. We don't want any germs to spread in healthcare, but we're even more concerned about those antibiotic-resistant germs because of the limited options that we have for treating patients who get sick with them. So washing your hands removes dirt, removes some germs, even might kill some germs. And alcohol-based hand sanitizer kills the germs. And we'll talk more about these two ways we can clean our hands in another episode. So you can see why it's so important not to skip this topic of hand hygiene, the one that we've been hearing about since we were kids, and not to forget why it's so important now that we're part of the healthcare world. As always, thanks for joining us. Please be sure to follow up with us. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube. Check us out as well on our website, cdc.gov/Project First Line. We will see you back here with the next episode.
Hearing Dr. Carlson talk about a nurse's workday and the number of surfaces that are touched, what did we learn? That's right. Healthcare workers touch a lot of things during their workday. So being diligent about hand hygiene is really important. But even though we all know how important it is to clean our hands to keep germs from spreading, studies show that on average, healthcare providers clean their hands less than half of the times they should. We might need to clean our hands as many as 100 times per 12-hour shift, depending on the number of patients and intensity of care. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Are there points in your workday when it's challenging to clean your hands when you should? Or when you notice your coworkers having challenges? What could you do to address the challenges? Let's use our last few minutes together to reflect on what we've learned and think about how we can put what we've learned into practice. Do you have any ideas for possible strategies to use on the job to support good hand hygiene practices, either for yourself or for others? Would anyone care to share their ideas? Thank you for your ideas, and thank you all for your time today. Does anyone have any questions still remaining? Thank you for sharing those questions. Project First Line is actively collecting your questions to help inform more training resources as they're developed. I've written them down and I will get back to you with responses. We covered a lot today and there's still more to learn. You can keep exploring these topics on your own using the resources on this slide. The CDC also has a lot of resources about hand hygiene. They have materials for healthcare providers and healthcare settings, as well as materials for the community that may help you. You can also follow us on social media. I will stay on the line for a few minutes after our session ends, and will be happy to discuss any other questions. And finally, please let us know how you enjoyed today's session by completing the feedback form. Thanks again for joining us today.